So I wanted to talk about some case reports of changes that we caught that get into really why we're there, but also are almost in every case changes that could have been caused by anesthetic drugs or by something iatrogenic that the surgeon has done, and it's really up to us to kind of suss that out and figure out which is which. So for the first one, it's a carotid endarterectomy, sort of a standard history of this patient here. The interesting, I guess, notable thing in this case was that the right carotid was giving a lot of posterior circulation supply because the two verts were also stenosed. The left side was 80 to 90% stenosed as well, but they decided to use the right carotid since it was also contributing to this posterior circulation via a large posterior cerebral artery. And here you can see the bilateral stenosis. Really, the left looks worse than the right here, but there's the lesions there in the right and the left carotids. Anesthesia used neuromuscular block, a MAC.5 of SIVO, and 50% nitrous. So everyone of my neuromonitoring friends might be horrified by that, but that's perfectly acceptable. I'm not going to stand here and be dogmatic and say you need to do TIVA for every single case. It depends on what the surgery is. In this case, it's a carotid. We're not doing sensory evoked potentials necessarily. We're not doing motor evoked potentials. We're not doing EMG. Neuromuscular block is perfectly fine, and in fact, I prefer it because muscle tone is a source of noise from the EEG signal that we're trying to record, as you see. So if we can eliminate that right off the block and throughout the case, that's great. Same with 1.5 MAC of SIVO and some nitrous. If we get a good continuous EEG under a regimen like this, then that's great, as long as that's how it stays and you reach steady state and you don't give any boluses sort of right when they're heparinizing and knock the brain out altogether. So we can work together to make it as collaborative as possible in the management anesthetically of the patient, and we don't have to just say, we require this or require that. So here's what the baseline looked like. Again, left hemisphere over right hemisphere. Here's the anesthesia. The mean was 82, that's a good number. And it's nice and symmetric, sort of a typical picture of someone under general anesthesia. There's some sort of theta, alpha and theta frequency activity, some underlying beta, and a little bit of delta slow waves as well. So this is a good patient. They're not about to wake up, and it's nice and symmetric, and we have some good continuity as well. And again, pre-clamp, so we're just making sure that we're in continuous EEG, we're not in burst suppression, and everything is ready to go right before the surgeon clamps. Maybe the mean's bumped a little bit. So everything is all set. 20 seconds after the clamp goes on the right carotid, here's what we see. It's gotten slower in general bilaterally. There's just more theta and delta activity, but you can also appreciate that the amplitude on the right hemisphere is lower than it is on the left hemisphere. So we have unilateral decrease in amplitude and we have bilateral slowing. There's just less fast frequency activity. So we recommended at that point that, well, again, here's just the anesthesia has stayed stable. This change is persisting now 20 seconds post-clamp. The surgeon now places a shunt. That's our recommended intervention in the event of a change like that with clamping. But and this is now 10 seconds after the shunt's placed, we're still seeing a slower EEG than it was at baseline prior to clamping. There's still generalized global delta on both sides, both hemispheres. Now we're at 2 minutes, 15 seconds post-shunt. It looks a lot better. The fast frequency stuff is back. The amplitude on the right side is back. So it looks almost back to baseline. The symmetry is back. So the shunt seems to have effectively helped reperfuse the area of brain that was becoming ischemic. When you take the shunt out, you have to reclamp again, and we saw the same changes, and you can see still that it's unilaterally lower in amplitude on the right side, but bilaterally slower. They took the clamp off to finish the closure, and it came back. By the end of the case, with a mean of 91, the EEG was symmetric, good fast activity, and that's fine. This is that same sort of series of changes displayed over a spectral analysis array where the power of each frequency is displayed in these various colors, and you can see everything's chugging along, clamp goes on here, and then everything dive bombs down here, so it's all washed out, and then it gradually returns back to baseline with the shunt placement. So that's a good catch of a potential stroke that would have happened if we hadn't detected that. Here's the post-op images. The right side is nice and patent now and big lumen, and then the left side still has the stenosis, probably needs to be done.